And now you guys do so much for the community, but can you tell us a little bit about what makes you different from the other nonprofits in the area?
Are you ready to get started?
So welcome to Fondy Famous. I am Kelly Northley. Today we're doing our very first official nonprofit feature. I've wanted to roll this out for quite some time, and I have featured nonprofits before, but we're doing it in a new, bigger, better way. And I'm excited to be here with Amber of United Way to kind of roll this out. So Amber, I would love to hear exactly what United Way is for someone who has no idea what you guys do, and I know it's a lot, but what would you describe it as?
Well, you put me on the spot because you're like, okay, you've been with United Way for 20 years. That's a true story. We've been around since 1948. And we do different things in different communities, right?
Yep.
Also, a lot of the things we do are in the same community and doing very similar things. So United Way can be a little confusing because we do a lot. But since 1948, the United Way of Lac County, which is what we are now, has been known for fundraising, certainly grant writing, and through our iteration and evolution of United Way, making sure that every individual is served regardless of socioeconomic status, regardless of race, ethnicity. United Way's goal is to meet the community where the needs are and where the unmet needs arise.
Okay.
So that's, there's a lot of things that go into it after that. That's the next segment here. But at the end of the day, United Way fights for the health, education, and financial stability of every person in our community.
Okay. And just what got you into being part of United Way?
So I am a graduate of Lakeland College, which I guess nowadays is Lakeland University. But when I graduated, it was Lakeland College, 2007. I actually am a nonprofit management major. So sociology minors, nonprofit management major, which is insane because that program has dissolved now. It makes me sad. But to think that at some point, my professor, my mentor, Dr. Francis, had the vision to professionalize the nonprofit sector and teach future professional nonprofit leaders really what it's like to run a nonprofit. It's much different than running a business, yes. Right? The management of it, the HR, the grant writing,
the wearing of many hats,
the wearing of many hats, the running your budgets and your admin on a shoestring budget, and being very thankful and grateful so that the community knows, just having everything be scrutinized that you're doing. Where's the money going? How much overhead. Nobody in business, they don't ask you that.
Right.
Your overhead goes where it goes. I don't know. You pay your people, right?
Yeah.
In the nonprofit sector, we don't have the ability. I mean, because we're donor dollars, we're stakeholder dollars, we're grant funded, state, federal, foundations. So you need to be able to have the expertise, the knowledge, the management from a nonprofit standpoint. So my family, I grew up in the Catholic community, and I have nuns and monks in my family. So I always think that that was going to be my calling, is to serve people. That is what my people have done for generations throughout the world, throughout the nation, throughout the world. I think I was born into it. And when that nonprofit managed, actually fun fact, I started as a paralegal at a technical college, and I got 3 semesters in, and I was like, okay, what am I doing here? This is not for me. Like, I like to talk.
Good background, though.
I like to interact. Yeah, it was cool. It was great. I got to actually, I learned a lot down at the Marquette University Law School. So great experiences, had great professors along the way. But as soon as that, it was like a shiny object. It was there waiting for me. And someone said, you would be amazing for this nonprofit management degree. Like, you love to interact with people. I can talk all day. I can talk about any topic. You need that ability to articulate, because at the end of the day, the nonprofit sector is, yes, it's about outcomes. Yes, it's about SMART goals. It's all that, but it's about storytelling. You have to be able to tell your story, because then people understand what your mission is. You can talk all day. You can put out all the sexy infographics. You can put out all the, the reports, right? Think of your impact reports, but a couple stories resonate with people. I've told stories on the radio. People will say to me, you said something on the radio, and it was like a decade ago. I'm like, oh my God, you remember remember that.
Right, because they connect to
Touches
it,
my
because
heart.
they're like, oh, that's similar. Oh,
Yeah.
that means something
Yeah.
to me. Or
it was like an aha. Like I didn't realize. I mean, I'll never forget when I had a young person that was part of our United Youth group. So basically, it's for high school students throughout the county. They get to serve on a board. They get money to give away. That's money that we raise. And I had a young person from a rural school district say, "I did not realize that we had homelessness in Fond du Lac County." And it was an aha moment for that person, but also for me. I'm like, oh my gosh, like we have so many stories that we to share still, and to educate and make aware. And I said, now with that knowledge and this experience that you go back with, you've now read through grants, you've vetted them out, you've made funding recommendations, go and take that into the world, because you can be on a board someday. We've given you this little mini opportunity as a young person. Go off and keep those stories in the back of your mind.
Yeah. Wow. And now you just have so many stories of things that you've helped with, that you've experienced, that you've seen.
Yep, along the way. Yeah, things that we've been able to help with, maybe some things that we've not been able to help with, right? At the end of the day, United Way, there's kind of there's almost this understanding or this expectation that we are kind of like the catch-all. Like people don't always know what we do, but they'll start with us. And oftentimes we can refer people out. We do that with 211, and we can talk about that. But sometimes it's convening, it's facilitating a conversation, dialogue, just creating that safe space for people to have a conversation. United Way doesn't always have the dollars. We don't always have the answers.
Right.
But we are really,
does.
really good at bringing people together. We are expert conveners, and we expect and anticipate collaboration, but also know that that's not always going to be the solution every single time, or maybe not that one and done, ongoing, but trust building even within our agencies, because that prevents duplication and it prevents overlap from happening.
Right. You had touched on 211, and that was something we want to talk about. Can you tell us what 211 is?
Right. So 211, and no longer is it the best kept secret, but for a while in Fond du Lac it was the best kept secret. So 211 is literally a 24/7 call line. It's a helpline. You can call from your cell phone, your landline, 24 hours a day. You can also go onto the website 211now.org. You can you can chat with 211. So say you're maybe a younger person or just somebody that has some anxiety, you actually don't even have to call and talk to somebody. But the beauty,
I like that that we're like that.
Yeah,
I don't want to call.
Sometimes you're like, oh God, I love to talk, but sometimes I'm just like, if I can just text you quick, oh my God, I would love that. It's just so efficient. And they will chat and interact back with you via your cell phone. But the way we recommend people, especially your people in great need, is just to simply call. Okay. Because the beauty of 211 is you get a live call specialist who is trained in many of different things. Oftentimes these are social work level employees trained and beyond, but they're also trained in listening for maybe like suicide ideation. They're trained in mental health. Mental health, QPR. They're trained in sex trafficking, what to listen for human trafficking. They know how to refer out if there's like a natural disaster. So these folks are absolutely incredible. But you get a live call specialist, and essentially they need to know two things. Often they need to know your name. We don't keep track of this. It's completely anonymous, but they ask your name, and they ask what zip code you're calling in from, and then they ask what's the number one reason you're calling into 211. Okay. If you call into 211, say for example for housing assistance, right? Maybe you're having a hard time paying your rent this next month. Maybe you had an unexpected car payment. We know that about 41% of the people in the city of Fond du Lac struggle to make enough money to meet their basic needs. That's our ALICE population. Again, 41% of people in the city of Fond du Lac do not make enough money to cover their basic needs.
Wow.
And often have to work multiple jobs to even cobble that together. Yeah, that comes from our ALICE report, which is a statewide report. That acronym, it's kind of a long one: asset limited, income constrained, and employed. So these are our hardworking families and individuals. So what we know is that through that ALICE report, we know that people are anywhere from $300 to $500 away from some type of crisis. They do not have that buffer. Okay, again, 41% of people are not meeting their basic needs. They don't have the luxury to save. There's not money tucked away in a little savings account here, because it's paycheck to paycheck if they're lucky. So say for example you're struggling, maybe you had to get new car tires to get to work, and now you don't have the money to pay your rent. You can call into 211. What are the resources in the community? The resources in the community that exist within the 211 database are the resources that exist in our community. Sometimes people will say, well, 211 couldn't help. So we'll say to that, tell me more, okay?
Right.
Because again, 211 does not create resources. 211 is the
Sharing
hub
them.
for the community resources that exist within your zip code, right? So oftentimes what starts as a conversation, that's why we encourage people to call into 211, because the things that happen next are magical and you don't know and you can't anticipate them until you start talking to that call specialist. Perhaps something else emerges. Perhaps there's some mental health challenges that you're experiencing because of finances, right? We know that rates of suicide are higher when economy and just recessions kick in because people struggle with finances. They feel like they don't know where to turn to, and things get really dark from there. So next thing you know, you're being referred then to maybe the Wisconsin Addiction and Mental Health Helpline, still within the 211 database, but kind of opens you up to a whole different database, resource database beyond those basic needs, which is what maybe led you to 211. After that, who knows what? We know that the calls are getting longer to 211, and we love that because we know that people have complex needs. They're complex family situations. Call 211. If there's ever a need for somebody to be warm transferred, let's say to 988.
What is 988?
988 is a mental health, is a suicide prevention hotline. Again, national, established a few years ago. 988 does exactly what they're supposed to do. We stay in our lane at 211. So if someone's calling in that's having suicide ideation, needs resources, would like to do inpatient, 988 is a warm transfer. So the call specialist won't even have the person hang up. They'll do a warm transfer to 988. We've actually had calls of people actively overdosing that have called into 211. That is a transfer to 911. We want you to call 911 if you're having any type of emergency. So we have this little three-way graphic that tells you examples of when to call in 211, when to call in for 988, and when that's a 911 call. That's on our website. You can find it out there.
Wow.
So 211 will field calls for, again, those basic need resources. We run the Wisconsin Addiction Helpline, mental health resources, and in the event of a natural or human-made disaster. So think of out of COVID. COVID was our 211 was the COVID
the go-to
call.
resource.
The go-to state resource declared by Wisconsin Emergency Management and Wisconsin Department of Health Services. So regardless of what services your community had available through your COVID, maybe you had a COVID response fund. We did eventually at our United Way. Basically your United Ways would upload that information, and 211, anytime you called 211, you'd have to give the zip code and they would know all the resources available in your county. So that served as that line for through COVID throughout the end. I think it even went almost a year past that because we knew people were still dealing with maybe some financial things even after, maybe some health. So no matter what, in the beginning, if you needed maybe a COVID maybe a test, right, to see if you had COVID, all the way from where do I go to a vaccine location to where can I get some financial resources because now maybe my hours have been cut, maybe I lost my job. Then to that natural disaster. So we also have a partnership with Wisconsin Emergency Management. So flooding, we've had that in Fond du Lac, we've had tornadoes. We then funnel all that information to 211. So when you call in, you are ideally getting like hour by hour that up to date of a resource if it establishes in our community, even back then to our down to long-term recovery disaster response. And in the event of, say, like when we say human-made tragedy, think of the Waukesha parade tragedy, where a vehicle drove into the parade. There was a fund established after that. People lost their lives. People were they were injured. That people suffered that maybe they didn't have a funeral expense. So 211 would even be the resource to be able to call in if one of those funds were to be established as a result of maybe a mass shooting or some type of tragedy.
So this is a well-known resource that people essentially make sure that any resource that is available goes to this information. Does it go down as far as like even little pantries in the area or anything? Everything.
Every single housing, food, basic need, utility assistance. It's in 211. It's vetted. We make sure it's updated at minimum annually. But let's say a program runs out of money and has to end like halfway through the year, they will call like the local United Way, and we will update it on our end. So we also want to make sure that agencies, if they even have a minor change, we talked earlier about maybe a summer program happening, like feeding program. We sent that whole flyer to 211. So we're like, if anybody calls in, like a family member or even a young person, I don't care how old you are, call 211, right? If you can use the phone and you need resources, 211 is for you. So they actually got, even like if it's a temporary program, a summer program, we want 211 to have that information. The more information they have, the better able they are to serve our people throughout Fond du Lac County and the nation. It's available nationwide. There's a website, and I can text it to you, but it's called 211 Counts. You can actually go and look to see, like, within the last hour, what people have called in, how many people have called in, what they've called in for. You can get as granular as the last 1 hour, or you can go to 1 year, you can go to 1 month. It is a data. So we actually tell our agencies, like, so when they're looking to like apply for grants, like obviously we send them the ALICE report, we send them the community health assessment. We used to do the life report. We also say go to 211. It is a mini community needs assessment that gets us is like as in time as humanly possible.
Right.
Because they're calling and logging every time somebody calls in.
Okay.
Yep. Maybe even show the magnets and stuff.
Yeah.
Too, Oh, I also wanted to mention that language should never be a barrier to 211 as well. So, maybe the two magnets of Spanish and English.
Okay.
That's what we have readily available, but any language that language lines has access to. We were the volunteer center in Fond du Lac County for like the last 11 years, okay? Very proud of that. No shame in our game whatsoever. But people want volunteerism to almost be served up to them these days. They literally don't want to. They want to do it, but they're like, please, can you just help us? Which is why a volunteer center existed all those years ago. Like, guess what? You can call Amber. You can call Kelly.
Yep.
We can walk you through it. So what we did, because we didn't have the money, we set up a website, which did cost us some money. And we basically said, hey, agency, X, Y, and Z, put all your volunteer opportunities out there. We'll have this hub. Again, United Way is a hub. And then we will get all the corporate volunteers. We'll get all the interns. Like, what kind of stuff you need service hours for silver cords? Perfect. Go out to Fondy volunteers. People weren't using it. They were calling our office. They wanted more handheld. They wanted more
different resources.
They wanted more customized, and it takes a person.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a donor, a sponsor, like supporting it, and they every year when we would like renegotiate our sponsorship, they'd want to see the numbers. Obviously, why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
I know. So it wasn't great. So we encouraged them to like limp along for a little bit, and then we're like, okay, this also forces us to rethink volunteerism post-COVID.
Yeah.
And post like just lack of volunteer segmentation, just a lot of just like segmentation within like our agencies. So we can still talk about volunteerism. We have a million different opportunities, but I just don't have like that go-to site that we refer people to.
Well, what we
just
could
say,
do is
come
just
to
say,
us. We say, we do have a tab on our website. It's a volunteer tab. And right now, selfishly, we're really promoting the things like we want people to be on Drug Free Communities Coalition. We want people to join the Y-Screen Advisory Board. We want people to help us deliver our fresh fruits and veggies to our child care centers. So right now we're having them come to us for those things. And then if they're like, well, we want something like maybe working directly with kids, we're like, okay, perfect. We don't do that, but we have this whole list of places that do that, and we can help you make the right connection. They because they're just so lean. The expectation of these businesses now is that they do those things, but with very few staff and like very few hours dedicated to volunteerism. They're like, yeah, you have 8 hours of volunteer time off. So then all these people reach out to us like, where do I do my 8 hours? Where do I do my 8 hours?
Yeah.
So anyway, I digress, but we can still talk about volunteerism. It's just a little sort of a subject now for me. So we're coming around again though.
I would love, and it doesn't need to be today, maybe you and I can one-off because I think there's a few things, but what if we could make that happen?
Be amazing.
Because I have a pretty good team in place at this point. Yeah. Obviously, like, I still run off of sponsorships and things like that, very similar to a nonprofit, but if you can tell me what exactly is needed, I might be able to help with that somehow.
Sounds good. And we actually do have an idea. Like, I actually have an MOU in place that I am
What is an MOU?
A memorandum of understanding with the library that they let us use a physical space within the library, similar to what they do at the job center. Because the job center is at the library in the center of the library, so it's like on that second floor.
Yep.
So you can go to the job center now because they closed our job center on Peters. That's gone, like through the state Department of DVR closed that. So now they can go there. So I thought, what if we partnered with the library and the job center to bring a volunteer, like a physical person, Kelly, right? Maybe we start with a volunteer in that space just to get kicked off. But that's our next go round, and we're working with Rachel, who's the new library director over there, to see what that looks like. But how can that get bigger? Like, we start with volunteers, but at least it gives you a person to be able to talk to, go through the opportunities, and try to find the right fit.
Yeah. Do you happen to have, and maybe you do, maybe you don't, but a list of places that you can volunteer with children?
We have that full list. Thank you for asking.
Then yes, we should do something.
We just had to develop that for the court system, because the court system is now, instead of giving out truancy fines, because they weren't getting paid. They just weren't getting paid, because I mean, I don't have $200 laying around, and my parents probably don't have $200 laying around, and also the root cause of truancy is not truancy. There's a lot of other things, so
which relate to finance, which
relate to transportation, all the above. Right? We get tons of calls to get kids to school. So instead of that, this new judge, Judge Dempsey's like, I'm going to give out required service, out in the community. But it ends up being a lot, because some of these kids, there's kids that need 20 to 30 hours of community service because of just like habitual truancy. So what we had to do for the judges, we cobbled together a list. We just vetted it out 3 months ago. All the places that will take minors.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. So people ask me that specifically.
Absolutely. Yep. And it's like, what are the criteria? Like, okay, do you have to have an application? Like, do you have to have a caregiver the first time? And then after that, they'll train you, So we're working through the system. But right now we have 30 to 40 youth every month, 10 months of the year. They take off in July and August, so no truancy court those 2 months. The rest of the time, they're giving out 30 to 40 youth are getting anywhere from 20 to 30 service opportunity or service hours. Isn't that a lot?
Yeah.
I had no idea it was that big of an issue.
Yeah.
But we worked with Officer Kawan Brown, he's a school resource officer, to kind of help bridge the gap between the youth and then United Way saying, here are the opportunities. Like, trust these, we just vetted them out.
We also get a lot of businesses or places that need volunteers saying they need volunteers. And so if I can figure out how to help share that.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you guys have it built on your website already?
Yeah.
You do? Okay.
Well, in process. Because what we had to do is we brought all the data from that Fondy volunteers to our volunteer tab on our website, but that's all taking a little bit of time.
Okay. If I can help with that, seriously, our website traffic is very steadily increasing, and we're becoming a really big resource here. But we can tie it to socials and say, hey, we're getting a lot of people asking about volunteering with kids or whatever.
Yes.
So
families,
we can funnel people to that.
That's what we need, really, just an awareness. Because even Kawan Brown's like, how did I not know about Fondy volunteers for all these years?
Well, and how did I not know?
I know.
I literally posted, I'm like, hey, where can we volunteer with kids? And you have a whole list. Let me get that.
And we vetted it out as recently as 3 months ago to make sure, okay, remember back in the day you said you would take kids? Are you still good for that? And what ages is the minimum? And anyway, Ride United actually came out of the COVID time, because what we discovered is that people could not get to, people were struggling getting to appointments, and it was primarily appointments for, again, testing testing sites, and then eventually to vaccine clinics, etc. So this started as a national program. We tried the national model in Fond du Lac, which was using Lyft as that ride share partner. Okay.
Did we have Lyft here? I wasn't here for COVID.
So that's okay. So you're walking right along the journey with me here. So we're like, yes, we get these free codes. Now we had to write a grant. Okay. And I just want to thank Lyft immensely, because they are basically covering the cost of these codes, right? Wow. So we write a grant. They want our stories. They want our impact. They want to know kind of who's using them. But in exchange for that, we are able to give out codes to our community members. So we started off, and it turns out that a couple things. It wasn't necessarily the availability of drivers, but it wasn't also not that. It really came down to people didn't always have a smartphone. Perhaps their phone was turned off for non-payment, or in some cases people did not have...
to get the Lyft.
Yeah, you have to have the app.
Okay, yeah.
So the way the Lyft works, the codes work, is basically instead of entering in your payment information, you enter in that code. But at the end of the day, you still need to have the wherewithal to use the Lyft, to download the app, to know where to go, to know where to enter in the codes. So we stepped away from that, and we tried so hard. We tried to work with our agency partners. They tried to work with our people. What we just realized is that Fond du Lac was not ready for that version of Ride United, okay?
Yep.
So we had to iterate. So what we did is, okay, what do people use currently for transportation? Because they obviously trust those. Why don't we start there? So we went to our Fond du Lac Transit, okay? Wonderful partner, very affordable. People know how to use the bus. We're like, why don't we start with our first grant? So we started writing grants. With our first grant, why don't we go purchase some bus tokens, okay?
Yep.
Very simply put. We can get those out to the library because people are always coming to the library. They can't get home, or maybe they had a bus token to get there. How do they get home? We gave them to our shelters, St. Catherine Drexel, Warming Shelter, and our schools, because we know that kids are struggling getting to school. You have to pay the bus to get to school. So if you don't have money for a pass, or you don't have money for the tokens, getting to school is going to be a challenge. People getting to work. Then we went over to our cab companies, because we realized that people take cabs in this community a lot. It's probably the number one, because the reality about the bus is wonderful. It ends by a certain time in the evening, so by 6:30, and it doesn't run on the weekends, okay?
Okay.
So perhaps you work second shift. You can get to your job on the bus. You
can't get home.
But how would you get home, right? So we went to our cab companies, and we brokered a deal that we would give them, say X amount. We would put it like in our pool, and here were the specific criteria for how when people called in, how it could be used, right? So we prioritized medical appointments, mental health, dental appointments, and like getting to a job interview, okay? Because we knew that we couldn't get people to work on a regular basis. We just don't have the funds for that. I wish we did, because we know that transportation is a barrier to jobs as well, and just access. So we started off then working with Hometown and Hometown Transportation and Quality Cab. Quality Cab does handicap rides. They have handicapped vehicles. So that was our second way. And then our third way is, because people were calling in and they're like, well, we have a vehicle, we just don't have gas. We're like, oh yeah. So then there comes in our third solution. Quick Trip has been a wonderful partner. We get gas only cards, gift cards, and then we also write a grant to Quick Trip Foundation. They're absolutely incredible, such a great, wonderful community partner, and oftentimes they will match what we buy. Okay, so then fast forward to, let's say, 2024, we said, okay, let's go back to the Lyft again, okay? Years later, people's understanding of Lyft, it's just more trusted. We then wrote that grant. We were able to get $1,300 in codes, and now we are a well-oiled machine. So we have 4 ways that people can access transportation through Ride United. Again, bus tokens, gas-only gas cards, Lyft, and then Hometown or those cab vouchers. Yeah. So we know that transportation as a basic need. So thinking of your food, your utility assistance, housing, we know that transportation is like 4 or 5 always on the list. But what we also know is, even through our community health assessment that is done by community partners, including our healthcare systems, transportation is also one of the biggest barriers to healthcare.
Right.
So it has become one of the top needs in our community for people. So not only is it a barrier, it's a prevention barrier, because if you can't get to a prevention appointment, so say your annual physical, say you have a toothache or something like this, next thing you know, it becomes much more emergent, and you end up in the emergency room. So if we can peel away that financial barrier to get you to one of those intervention appointments or those prevention appointments, that's also a huge cost savings on the healthcare systems and on the nonprofit sector as a whole, and on as that person as well. A prevention appointment can be all the can create all the access in the world to future resources, but just one appointment alone can be devastating if not making it to that appointment. And if you miss appointments, sometimes doctors can actually you can be removed from their practice. Then it becomes really difficult to find another primary provider. So Ride United has been going strong now. Like I said, started in COVID, and now we have these various strategies. At this point, it is dollar in, dollar out. We take no overhead at United Way to run that program. So every dollar we get in from a grant, from a donor, from any source, just a donation, goes out into the community through Ride United.
If people want to help support that, like financially contribute, how can they do that? out for you guys.
Absolutely. Thank you for saying that. So our campaign is going to be, coming up here in September. And we know that people give where their heart is and what speaks to them. So obviously, if you go to our website, you can actually designate your gift to Ride United. And you can also, at the end of the giving campaign, so there's Giving Tuesday. The last 2 years, we've actually run a Giving Tuesday campaign that was specifically for Ride United. So we went out and featured Richie from Hometown Cab did an interview with us. We went over to the bus station and they were doing something really fun for Giving Tuesday. So we really wanted to create awareness that, because people don't always realize, like, if you are fortunate to have a vehicle, that's kind of a luxury, Kelly, honestly. You don't realize it until you see
and
folks
the gas
that
for
are
it.
and the gas and the insurance and the mechanical, just keeping it in good repair. It's a lift, right?
Oh, that's a rabbit hole in itself, but yeah.
Yeah. So, when you realize like how fortunate you are and how easy it is just to get in your vehicle and the struggles people have even to get groceries. Like people ride the bus to be able to do their grocery shopping with maybe in some cases a kid in tow, a couple of kids in tow, maybe having to use a like a wheelchair or a walker, right? It just, the challenges are real. So our goal is to again provide as much access to opportunities. So if that's again getting to a job interview, we've actually helped people successfully get jobs because they were able to get to that interview thing.
It's interesting to hear how you guys as a nonprofit operate. I have had the chance now through this to connect with a lot of nonprofits and see what they do. And I know that my job is social media, but with social media, people want to hear stories, but they also want the statistics to back it up. Like they don't want to just be like, oh, United Way helps. They want to know United Way gave $10,000 towards whatever. They want that.
Absolutely.
And so not all nonprofits track that.
Yeah.
And that's a huge thing. And then they're like, why don't we have money? And I'm like, well, because you don't have anything to show people.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's never actually don't put this out there. I'm not even gonna tell you who it is. I'm not gonna tell you what company. I'm just gonna tell you that there is a company that is kind of anti-United Way, and not that they don't appreciate what we do. They're just like, we do our own in-house thing at our company where employees can give to a fund. So they basically have created a United Way within in-house, okay, which is not unusual. It's Aurora Foundation. I mean, they all have, okay. And this company is just like, yeah, thanks. I was able to say to them, because Ride United was giving people rides to their company, which again, it's on the bus route, but not when you're working anything other than first shift, okay? Right. So I went to my friend at that company and I said, hey, I just want to again talk through this with you. Like, we have people that want to get to your job and you might not know because they're paying for a cab or they're asking us to cover it. This is not to make you feel guilty or ashamed or at all, but I just can we problem solve together? They have never given United Way $1 in the history of our organization. They gave us $3,500 for Ride United because they believed and so it wasn't just for their people, of course. It's like, oh my God, they just needed to know that it was an issue. And I made it really personal by saying people are actually also when people don't have, when they're first getting a job, they don't have money right away, right? They got to wait for that check to come through. So we help them keep the job so that you can keep making cheese for the awesome pizza that is being, that is being put on in the world.
I heard that you guys have a community diaper bank. What does that look like here?
Yeah, so our community diaper bank really came from, again, United Way doesn't go looking to solve and tackle problems alone. We basically look for unmet needs, okay? So several years ago, unfortunately, our Family Resource Center closed their doors. We started getting calls, and actually through 211, because we were able to put a 211 poster on the door so that when families came in to discover that the Family Resource Center was sadly closed, they at least had a resource. So they knew, they at least had some touch point, right? So what we were hearing from families and agencies were a couple of things. So lack of, support for families as far as basic needs that included things like diapers, wipes, and formula. Okay, well, I brought that back to the board and I said, what responsibility does United Way have at this current time? Nobody is doing that. And I think we would probably have the bandwidth to make a case to provide diapers. We know that improper diapering actually can lead to health issues.
Right,
and,
which
you
is
know,
a whole.
It crosses all the. So we would kind of look at it in three different ways. You know, does it impact health? Does it impact opportunity? And is it an implication on a family's ability to afford something? So that income need, that or income stability, basic need, it hit all those areas. So it was a yes. So how do we get diapers in our community? So the way we started was with doing a drive. Okay, so we started off with a drive and just creating awareness that the closure of the Family Resource Center. It took us probably 2 years for people to realize that the Family Resource Center was no longer there, and that United Way was going to pivot to do this until another maybe natural community partner came forward. We then learned that the Fox Cities United Way, through Kimberly Clark, was offering up the opportunity for nonprofits to become members of their diaper bank, which would essentially source up to what is currently now 10,000 diapers a month in the community of Fond du Lac.
Wow.
We are forever thankful for that opportunity that came out of Kimberly Clark.
So they send $10,000.
So we
10,000 diapers.
Yep. So what we do is we every month, and this is in partnership with Public Health. I would be remiss to not mention Robin Weiss at WIC in Birth to 3. They are our partners. So every month, 7 community organizations. So those include New Beginnings, Broken Bread, Badgerland Youth for Christ does their Parents Life program, Working Families Grant out of Marian University. So 7 altogether. They send us the numbers of how many families that are in need of diapers for that particular month, and they change because we know littles go up sizes, and maybe a new little comes into the world. They send us our diaper quantity, and then RB Royal manufacturing in this community goes up and picks them up in a like a cargo van.
Wow.
Every month, and brings them back down to Fond du Lac. We sort them out, and then the agencies come and pick them up. But currently, to date, there is no other community partner that is providing diapers
Do you still need more?
We are actually, it's funny you ask, we're actually doing a wipes drive.
Okay.
And wipes specifically because diapers we're able to get enough of, again, thanks to this partnership with the Fox Cities Diaper Bank. Wipes are not always something we have access to. So we're actually going to be doing a wipes only, so baby wipes specifically drive, so that when families or individuals are picking up their diapers from the 7 respective community partners, they're able to get wipes alongside of that. Because again, that is it can be a barrier. Cost is a barrier to getting those products.
What does a wipes drive look like?
So a wipes drive basically is a company or an organization, it doesn't matter how big, how small you are, agreeing to take a tote, essentially.
Okay.
Yep. So think of your collection, any of your hygiene items and stuff. But wipes and pads and tampons are something that folks just don't always give, right? They think of the toothpaste and the toothbrushes and the deodorant, but some of those other ones are like, oh yeah, I suppose we do need those items as well. So essentially taking a tote, or even just contributing dollars so that we can go out and buy those items. So then we go out and buy them as we need them every month. So we had a service club actually just give us money because we did a presentation, and they were astounded by the fact that there were families that did not have access to proper diapering in our community. We actually had a child care center reach out to us that was their families were struggling, and they had shared with us that in some cases they would send a kiddo home and they would return in the same diaper that next morning because they did not have proper access to diapers.
Right.
And these are our Alice families. These are very hardworking families and individuals that are really just trying to cobble together their basic need budget and what it takes to do that. And they're really having to make really hard decisions. But we also know that can lead to health issues, and that is that's not a great solution. So us providing something as simple as a diaper and wipes can really alleviate pressure off of a family and allow them to properly diaper that little when they need those diapers. The last thing an organization wants to do is send a message that we're hoarding things and we're asking for more than what we need. We have that need met, but what we truly are going to ask for is what we need, and that's just the wipes.
The wipes.
Simply the wipes. Yep.
Do you guys have a wish list in your
Just the wipes, literally. It's any any baby wipe.
I'm familiar with the Humane Society. They do wish lists,
they do their wish list.
They get a lot of food.
Yep.
And,
Yep.
A lot of times they don't need.
And sometimes they need like bleach so they can clean, and paper towels so they can clean, and no, that's good point. You know what we used to do for so we also back in the day used to do like pads and tampons, again, because Kimberly-Clark sources all of these items. There, like at one point we were saying 1 in 3 girls in Fond du Lac County does not have pads and tampons, like access to them on a regular basis. So we were actually going out and like getting pads and tampons. Now we have a pipeline through Kimberly-Clark, but girls were missing school because they did not have pads and tampons when they were having their period. So you're like, oh my God, what is this, like a developing country? You're like, nope, this is Fond du Lac, Wisconsin.
Wow.
And our school teachers and our counselors were coming to us and they were saying, can you help us? Because they were literally pulling out of their own.
Yep.
Here you go, so you don't have to go home.
You guys have a wipe drive coming up. Can you tell us about how people can donate and what that looks like?
Yeah, thank you for asking. So every year we do a wipes drive in partnership with, it's a National Day of Action. So that's something that United Way at a global level is encouraging the chapters to do. So what we have done, so people do volunteerism, people do drives. So what we decided to do is partner that with a wipe drive, so baby wipes. So we have access to the diapers again. So we're going to really make sure that at United Way we are asking for what we need. We don't want people to think that we are, duplicating and like, wait, don't you already get diapers? Yes, we do. We just don't have access to the wipes on a regular basis. And oftentimes, and those of you that have littles know, most of the times when you need a diaper, you probably need a wipe, or at least
least a few.
Yeah, exactly. And they go quickly, right? Mm-hmm. They go quickly. So the wipes are that drive starts the 21st of June and it goes through the 27th. A full list of locations will be on our website, and it will make a social media post. So watch for the United Way Day of Action wipes drive, and then we'll partner then with those 7 different community agencies that receive the diapers, so that when they pick up on a monthly basis, they will have wipes to pick up alongside of those diapers. Periodically, like throughout the year, also, like if I make a plug to like Rotary, the one I didn't want to mention before because I think I'm right, but I'd have to check my system. But like Service League was like, they were like astounded. They were like, again, it's creating awareness sometimes. Like diapers, like. Yep. Really, like if you've never struggled to afford diapers, I have. They're expensive. They're taxed. All the things. So
yep,
just adds up. So
yeah, and then you need the wipes to go with them, which is also an additional expense.
Exactly,
very expensive.
Right. Yeah. So we can, the families can breathe a little bit. They can put the gas in their car and they can buy the food that they need and not have to be like, or shamefully send their kid back to daycare with the same diaper that the little one left with the night before, Let's do drug-free communities because I have a lot of props out there to like that's a lock bag out there. That's a lock box, like keeping your meds secure.
Yep.
And I can really hit home on, volunteering. Like there's a lot of volunteer opportunities within drug-free communities. So
I know I see all the emails and people asking for volunteers, and like we're just not.
Oh God, I know.
But yes,
we'll be out all weekend, all weekend, making sure.
So here in Fond du Lac, we have something through United Way called Drug-Free Communities, and I see the emails and we kind of chat back and forth. There's some monthly, I think, regular meetings about it. But can you tell us what this is?
Yeah, so Drug-Free Communities has been in our county for over 20 years. It's a community coalition that United Way provides leadership and financial support to. Our goal through a grant that we have through the federal government is to reduce the incidence of substance abuse, namely nicotine and alcohol, within our 12 to 18 year olds. Okay, that is our main goal. There's lots of other ways in which we support that, but at the end of the day, creating education and awareness and doing campaigns around safety, keeping alcohol and substances out of the hands of youth is exactly what we do. So there are lots of different ways in which we do that, but a couple of ways that we do that are providing lock bags and lock boxes, so that if you have a narcotic in your home, like say a pain med, some type of opioid, you have it locked up and secured so that the access is not there. Oftentimes what we know is that youth, when they are getting access to these substances, they're accessing them in their homes, and that includes alcohol as well. So We also have things like fridge locks that folks can put on their fridge, or even like on a liquor or like a beer cabinet. Yep, because we want to make sure that's not happening. We also have the med deactivation kits. I had one of those out there. Those are basically, so in our county, I'm actually very proud of this. Fond du Lac County actually had the first permanent drug drop location in the state.
Wow.
I know. We're
Fond du Lac.
trailblazers.
Okay.
We're trailblazers. And it's a huge thank you to Leadership Fond du Lac through our chamber, now known as Envision Greater Fond du Lac. We started that with basically the need for a safe place, because we don't want people to throw their meds away. We don't want people to flush them. And we don't want youth to have access to them. So how do we safely dispose of them? So our law enforcement, I forget the first location, I have to think it's City of Fond du Lac. Our law enforcement had to agree to basically host a site to have one. It looks like a little, so think of a postal box, right? You put your mail in, you open it up, and you essentially, you dispose of your medications, expired, ones you're no longer using. Maybe you filled a prescription just in case, and you don't need those anymore. Please get rid of them. Every single municipality throughout the county has at least one permanent drug drop site. In addition to that, Drug Free Communities works with law enforcement twice a year, spring and fall, to do a drug take back day. So that's a day that basically, twice a year people can come and physically drop off. So maybe you're like, I just want to ask some questions, or I really want to be part of that take back day. And not every community has access to those permanent drug drop sites. So these drug take back days through the DEA is a really great way to get rid of meds. The next way then is, say you're homebound. So through a partnership with Mobile Meals, we'll often, a couple times a year, we'll deliver those little deactivation kits, because if people are homebound and they can't get out to a drug drop location or one of the permanent drug, the drug take backs, they're able actually to take one of these little packs. You put you follow the instructions on the back, and you can put a ton of meds in there, and it basically deactivates them, and then you can throw that packet away.
Huh.
So we have a grant.
Oh, those are the bags that you're showing
those are the
me.
bags.
Okay.
So it's
okay.
like
that makes
like
sense.
a charcoal based
Yep.
kit,
And you put all of them in there.
And you put them in there. You put you add water,
Mm-hmm.
and then you do a shaking motion, and then you wait a little bit of time, and essentially you have now deactivated any like active med behind that, and then that can actually be safely disposed of. So at the end of the day, making sure that again, youth don't have access. Another thing that we do at another activity we do at Drug Free Communities is we wristband. So we work with our community festivals. Thank you. Community festivals and events, Fond du Lac festivals. We work with Downtown Fond du Lac Partnership to get out into the community to wristband. And what a wristband is essentially an alcohol wristband. It denotes to that an often case a volunteer bartender. Think of your Optimist and your Rotarians and your service leagues who are out fundraising, right? It allows them to basically make sure that you've already been vetted. We actually have ID scanners, so we've got some volunteer opportunities coming up for wristbanding. In fact, at Wally Weekend and at the fairgrounds, we do every single day, every single shift, and we do it with volunteers. So this time we really stepped it up, because one of the reasons people were not volunteering for wristbanding is because they were like, well, I don't know where to look for someone's age on an ID, or I don't want to do the math incorrectly. I'm like, oh gosh, how old is this person? I don't want to make a mistake. So through our grant, we were able to purchase 10 ID scanners. So it takes all the math, all that out of the equation. You scan the back of the ID, and it says if that person is good or not to get a wristband when they go up to then, purchase their alcohol, or no, thank you, you're not old enough for this.
Right.
We're very proud of the fact that we have reduced underage drinking citations throughout the county, greatly. So much thanks to our volunteers for helping us make that happen. At the fairgrounds last year, I think they only gave 2 underage citations. Neither one of those folks had wristbands on, which means maybe an older person gave them a beverage. But we had a 100% compliance rate within our wristbanding for the fair last year. So that's a win for our community.
Right, that's huge.
That's a huge win. There's also great ways, in addition to The wristbanding. We would love, if anybody is interested in serving on our coalition, we have 3 work groups. We have an alcohol work group, we have a nicotine work group, and then we have an overall organizational management work group. It's about 70 people involved in the Drug Free Community Coalition, anywhere from public health to our hospital systems, sheriff's department, police department, nonprofits, or folks that are in the business of recovery and gratitude club, for example, our blending house, Beacon House. So if you're interested, please go to the Drug Free Community's website, go to their Facebook page, and that's a great way to get signed up. You can be a part of it, you can listen. We're also doing a stigma event coming up in September, so we're looking for volunteers to help us with that stigma event. That's going to be an annual event that we host in partnership with the Public Health Department.
Okay. Yeah, and your those events, the coalition events, I feel like are pretty low maintenance. It's a few meetings here and there, and then a good bit of emails back and forth, but you can chime in at your capacity.
Chime in at your capacity, and what I also encourage is people that have lived or living experience with substances. It can be a great way to connect to people that are in recovery, that are navigating, what that system looks like. And there's just a plethora of community folks at that table that are there to support you, that want to see you in a great space. And also volunteerism is just a great way to connect to your community in general. So again, people with lived or living experiences, maybe a family member has struggled, please come to that table, seek us out. There is a space for you at the Drug Free Community Coalition table.
Now, you guys do so much for the community, but can you tell us a little bit about what makes you different from the other nonprofits in the area?
Yeah, I think that really is a great clarifying question, because people are like, United Way is complicated. And that is true, because at the end of the day, our goal is to provide the infrastructure and the support to the agencies and programs providing direct services. United Way historically has not been a direct service model. While we are coming into some of those spaces around unmet needs, again, think of Ride United, think of the diaper bank, think of the pads, the products, the tampons, that might not exist otherwise. Our goal is to not duplicate or replicate any services. Our goal is to come alongside of the direct service programs that are already doing the work with individuals. How can we enhance? How can we provide maybe some data? How can we help come alongside with a grant, maybe financial support from United Way? How can we help with an unmet need? That is our goal, because we do serve as that hub, and we do have access to data. We do have access to the stories. And on behalf of the community, we can, in those agencies that are serving approximately 1 in 3 people throughout Fond du Lac County, we can help enhance the experience for those agencies who are ultimately working really hard day in and day out for those direct services.
So if someone wanted to support the United Way in their mission, how would they do that?
Absolutely. And we want people to come to United Way as their authentic self. So if you want to start as a volunteer, maybe you want to just dip your toe in volunteerism, we have that for you. We can get you connected to a one and done. Maybe you want to do something a little bit more frequently, once a month. Okay, we can find that for you. Maybe you don't have time right now, but you're like, golly, I heard about this need. I heard that people are experiencing, transportation, access to transportation barriers. Perhaps I can give you money for Ride United. Perhaps I can donate a product, an item. Right. Our goal at United Way is to be able to say yes to any and all of those things. We'd love for you to start with us. If we're not the right fit, and maybe there's an area, there's a specific, you want to help with kiddos, we can get you to that agency. We can get you to that program, but maybe it is within us. Maybe you're like, golly, I heard about drug-free communities. How can I get on that task force? How can I be part of the stigma? How can I, maybe you're you're a juggler and you want to help us at the event that day. We will always find a way to say yes, to get you ultimately to your passion, to get your money to where you would like to see it go. Reach out to us. give us a call at our office. You can reach us on Facebook. You can reach us on at our website. Come into our office. We're downtown Fond du Lac. We're proudly downtown for 25 years. We're in the old Woolworth building. So anybody that knows Woolworth, I learned about Woolworth when I got this job, actually, because my predecessor said, come into the old Woolworth building. And I was like, what's Woolworth? And now that I learned Woolworth department store, I was like, wow. So come in, you can see the big mural that was painted, the horse and buggies as you come into our office. It's really a great space right downtown. We'd love to sit and we'd love to talk to you, but also we'd love you on a coalition. And also, coming to a coalition meeting does not mean you have to be a part of the coalition. Maybe you're just shopping around. Not all agencies and programs have that flexibility. We can do that at United Way. We'd love to have you listen in, jump on a Zoom. If you just need maybe 5 hours, 10 hours of volunteerism, we probably have some posters that we can get you out to deliver. Agencies are always reaching out to us to say, hey, we've got an event coming up. Can you help us with some volunteers? There is more than enough work to be done in the nonprofit sector because, again, shoestring budgets, we're operating very lean. Volunteers are at the heartbeat of our mission in every single program and agency throughout this county. So we'll find you a way.
All right, well, thank you so much for telling us a little bit about what United Way does, what they offer. You gave us some great ways to volunteer, I would say, as well, and just to learn more about what our community needs. Is there anything else that you want to add at all?
I just want to thank you for this highlight, this opportunity, for always shining a light on businesses, small businesses, the nonprofit sector, the needs. Your voice transcends spaces, and it just means a lot to be here and be featured with you today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.